So, Leah, we come to you as a 20-year veteran in the U.S. Navy, retiring, do I say retiring?
I retired.
Retired, with the rank of commander, who's now become an extraordinary peace advocate. She was elected the first female president of Veterans for Peace, and in 2013 was selected to present the Ava Helen and Linus Pauling Memorial Peace Lecture at Oregon State University. As chair of Veterans for Peace Working Group on Drones, she has been working on the drone quilt project, which you see outside, please. So be sure to go behind me. Oh, very sorry. Here it is. It's a beautiful project. Well, she's a member, a board member of the War Prevention Initiative, which maybe you'll tell us something about. And is on the chair of the coordinating committee for World Beyond War. So you have a great biography here of working with peace groups, and it's wonderful to have you here with us.
So I am very proud and honored to be here and be asked to be a part of this prestigious panel of powerful women. And I am already against the next war. Are you against the next war? How do we know that we are already against the next war? We don't even know who it's against. It's because we are against war as an institution. We are against using violence to try to resolve any conflict. We know that it doesn't work, and it makes things worse. So we're against the institution, our system of war, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Is war is not one thing, but a conglomerate of a lot of things that feed into that. So the theory behind the war system is that might makes right, and that it perpetuates a vicious cycle of people, nations accumulating more and more weapons until now we have, tens of thousands of times we could destroy the whole earth. So feeling threatened by mightier nations, smaller ones try to increase their military capabilities, distrust and suspicion increase, which fosters even more military buildup and posturing. Nations start making military alliances, which promote an us versus them kind of mentality. It doesn't take long before adversaries become enemies, and the self-perpetuating, self-fueling, self-reinforcing war system is out of control. If we're to be successful in dismantling this war system, we need to dispel the widespread belief that it is impossible to end war. Many people believe that war is a part of human nature, or that we've always had war, or that there is such a thing as a good war. Even though these are myths, it is this interlocked set of beliefs and values that lay down the foundation of the war system. Based on this solid foundation is the military-industrial complex that President Eisenhower warned us about in 1961. But now there are many other additional factors that make up that complex. Factors like the corporate, also called mainstream media, which supports and promotes militarism in war. General Barry McCaffrey, who is seen frequently on MSNBC and NBC as a military and political analyst, he sits on the board of directors of defense contractor DynCorp. It was also on MSNBC that Brian Williams described the 59 Tomahawk missile attack on Syria this way. We see these beautiful pictures at night from the decks of these two U.S. Navy vessels in the eastern Mediterranean. I am tempted to quote the great Leonard Cohen, "I am guided by the beauty of our weapons." Oh. They are beautiful pictures of fearsome armaments. Speaking about the same missile strike, CNN's Fareed Zakaria praised President Trump's leadership, saying, quote, "I think Donald Trump became president of the United States last night." Yeah. I think this was actually a big moment, he said. And I don't have to tell you what they were saying on Fox News. These are the left-wing news broadcasters, right? So also on cable news outlets, you see political pundits that are from think tanks like Brookings Institute, Hoover Institute, American Enterprise Institute, Heritage Foundation. Other components that make up the war system are institutions like the military services themselves, the CIA, the National Security security, and the service war colleges like the Naval War College that I myself graduated from. War corporations like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Raytheon, conglomerates like GE, which manufactures weapons components, including nuclear weapons, and owns MSNBC and NBC. Lobbyists, which donate millions of dollars to Congress members, who then support legislation which profits those corporations and/or provides jobs in their districts. The components of a single weapon are deliberately made in many separate states so that Congress will continue to support the defense budget. Occasionally, Congress wants to spend more than the Pentagon even asks for. The war culture, which is perpetuated in schools and religious institutions, movies, video games like Call of Duty, and conflation of sports in the military. Recruiting, the military gets a budget of $3 billion to bring people into the military. And the idolization and glorification of service members, thank you for your service before you know what that person has done. And the fear factor, the propaganda that makes people willing to give up 54 cents out of every dollar because they're afraid. They're more afraid of the terrorists than they are of having a heart attack. And the force that underlies it all is capitalism, as Phyllis was saying, as a profit motive. War is a $1.7 trillion a year business, and so somebody is making a whole lot of money. So, so we see that we need to get away from this war culture, this war system, and we need to replace it with another kind of global security system, something that will take its place and help us resolve conflicts in a way that is positive and not violent. In the author Hannah Arendt's book on violence, she wrote that the reason warfare is still with us is not a death wish of our species, nor some instinct of aggression, but the simple fact that no substitute for this final arbiter in international affairs has yet appeared on the political scene. So now we need to develop that final arbiter. There are several steps that we could take. We could demilitarize it by shifting to a non-provocative defense posture. We have hundreds and hundreds of military bases in other countries. We have aircraft carriers that routinely patrol different sectors of the globe. We could phase out the arms trade. We could dismantle military alliances like NATO. And so we also need to create the positive side, the structure that's going to resolve these conflicts. And that includes strengthening international institutions. Reforming the United Nations, it's not perfect, we know that, but it is very crucial. It needs to be reformed to take away the veto power of the Security Council. It needs to be reformed to give more representation from the smaller countries. We need to create international laws, and we need to pull all the nations into the International Criminal Court jurisdiction. The United States, Israel, and South Sudan, I think, wrote a letter saying they absolutely had no intention ever of being signing on to the ICC. So, we need to support these support treaties that we signed and support international NGOs. I'll close with this one thing, and I know probably everybody's aware of this, but there's a perfect example of the war system thinking compared to the other system that we'll call the non-war system. So the perfect example was expressed when the U.S. and 40 other countries boycotted the recent nuclear ban treaty. Quoting from the joint U.S.-UK-French statement, quote, "Working towards the shared goal of nuclear disarmament and general and complete disarmament must be done in a way that promotes international peace and security and strategic stability based on the principle of increased and undiminished security for all. We all share a common responsibility to protect and strengthen our collective security system in order to further promote international peace, stability, and security." It's just Orwellian. So this statement is a very clear articulation of war system thinking. All the nuclear countries and NATO members, which are under the tool of the United States, I'm sure you know that, who are tethered to the war system, refuse to even participate in these discussions. On the other hand, you have 2/3 of the world who are working cooperatively over years of discussion and diplomacy and negotiation to create this critical treaty. Is a perfect example of a nonviolent alternative system. So World Beyond War, the organization that I spend most of my time working on now, has developed what we call a blueprint for this new nonviolent alternative system, and we call that a global security system and alternative to war. And I think many of you probably have seen copies of it. It's on the back table. That's the second edition, and we're working on the third edition right now. But we also gave copies of that to all of the sections that were there at The Hague, and I think many branches have taken it. The Tucson branch wrote a section on the role of patriarchy in war, which was in the second edition. Like I said, we have that there. We're working on the third edition, which we will be giving to everyone at our upcoming conference. It's called Nowhere 2017, War and the Environment at American University in DC. There's a green flyer on the back that tells you more about that. But we will be giving all attendees a copy of our third edition of that book. And we look forward to working more with WILPF, and especially on an international way to push back against the United States. I think it's going to take efforts from outside pushing in. We don't have the power anymore from inside the country to really influence our legislators. We don't have it. So it's going to take some kind of economic pressure, of boycotts or sanctions or something on the United States before they will change their ways. So we really need to work globally. Thank you so much.